going to be pruning our grapes and raspberry plants. So these are our grape plants, and as you can see, they need a lot of love. My dad collects grape plants from everybody in the neighborhood, and then he just kind of throws them in his garden. Doesn't really pay them a lot of attention. This is a type of grape that grows naturally in the South. It is wild, and you do need both a male and female plant in order to get fruit. So we may never get fruit off of these, but that's okay because we really just want them for shade. And because grape leaves are edible, if they fall into our courtyard and our dogs eat them, it won't kill them. Unfortunately, we have had to dig out some of our plants in our courtyard because the dogs were eating them and getting very sick. So these are native to the South of the United States. So if you live in the South, you probably are familiar with these types of grapes. We're not exactly sure what cultivar these are, but they're probably Scumpanagar or Muscadine. So if you're familiar with those, you know they're pretty hard to kill. So they're a great plant for this area. They're native, so they should do very well. So what we're gonna do today is prune these guys back. We're gonna do some pretty severe pruning. Grapes only get fruit on the new growth. So we're gonna prune these back pretty severely, and hopefully we'll actually get some grapes this year. Okay guys, so we're gonna start with this little guy here. This one had some really bad root shock after the transport last year, and a lot of this died. I've already trimmed it a lot to get some of the dead branches off, but it is starting to come back, and it had a lot of new growth come on it. So what we're gonna do this year is we're actually going to trim it back to here. So you can see that there's a little nodule here where it started getting some nice new growth, and we're gonna let that be our starting point for this year. And then we're just gonna trim off this growth from last year. And our goal here, just clean it up a bit, get some of these little pieces off. And that way we have a nice clean stem to start with for this year. Hopefully we will get loads of new growth on this and be able to really train it. Right now it is growing very curved, and so we're gonna wanna train this to grow straighter this year. So just gonna get some of these. A lot of these are really nice and green. So I was worried about that we were gonna lose this one, but it looks like it is really coming back very well. So it'll be all ready to be a full-fledged grape vine this year. This one is much larger, as you can see. Hopefully we have a male and female here. That's my hope. So first what I'm going to do is trim out all of this excess little new growth that we had from last year. And we're actually gonna trim this one back to here since it's curving so much and we need it to grow up for the pergola. So this is where it is going to get trimmed back to. And then we're just gonna clean up this. Hopefully all of this comes back with some nice, vibrant new growth this year. And then we'll be able to train it to grow a little bit straighter, which is kind of our goal here. Now this one had 2 in the pot and 1 did die on us. So we may not have the same grapevine. We may have the exact same, we don't know. We'll just see as we go. This one is really growing very sideways, but I think that I can train this one a little bit better and get it to stand upright. So I'm not gonna cut as much off of it. I'm just gonna cut down to this nodule, so a little bit smaller. And then again, clean up all these little pieces. I know this looks severe, but it'll be okay. It'll survive. These things are hard to kill. So there we go. These are our 3 grape vines. Now that they've been all pruned down and trimmed, and hopefully come spring, these things are gonna really take off, and we're gonna get lots of new growth, and then start training them up onto a trellis. Now that our grapes are all taken care of, we're gonna work on our raspberry plants. So we started with 2 small little raspberries last year. This is a vining type of raspberry that should grow up and over the pergola. They unfortunately didn't do as well here as we wanted because of the heat. This gets a lot of heat right here during the latter part of the day. So we're going to be moving them eventually, but for now we're just going to be pruning them today. So as you can see, they really took off and grew quite a bit and are very healthy, and even have grown some suckers over here. So we actually have 3 more raspberry plants than what we started with. So we'll be repotting all of those. So for this particular raspberry plant, it is going to get fruit on new growth, not on the old growth. So very similar to the grapes in the way we're going to prune these. However, not all raspberry plants do that. Some raspberry plants will get fruit on old growth or 2nd year growth. So make sure you know what kind of raspberries you planted before you trim off all of your old growth. So today we're just going to take these back a little bit, and again, always cut at a little nodule where that new stem is going to come out, and it's going to really branch out from there. I could go back even further, but I don't want to cut these down too much because we do want to vine these up and over. So just gonna, we'll cut maybe here on this one. And then that way it'll start getting a little bit bushier. You do need to be careful. This is a thornless variety. However, it is still very thorny, and you don't want to get that in your skin. So make sure you're wearing a really good pair of gloves for this. Now this guy really branched out a lot. He's got 3 nice size branches here. So we're just gonna cut him back. Trying to keep them so that they'll really bush out. There we go. And then these, we're going to cut these back to maybe around 6 inches. And then we'll clean up any of this extra growth around here. And just pop these off. Clean these guys up, and then they will be ready to be repotted. And then in the spring, they'll be all ready to go. So we have pruned our plants, and now we're ready to repot them. And we have our pots that I'm getting ready here. So we decided to go with these plastic pots for these because we have some of the big heavy terracottas, and they're very hard to move, and they also really hold a lot of moisture. So some of the plants don't like that high amount of moisture. And so The first thing we're gonna do is knock out these drain holes. Always remember to do that because you want your pots to be able to drain. So these are nice and lightweight. We may have trouble with them not holding enough moisture and getting too hot, but we'll see how that goes over time. So we're starting out here with some compost and soil that came from one of our flower beds. We have these big, huge built-in flower beds that have been here for 40 years. So the soil in them is really good. This is really nice black soil. It has lots of organic matter. There's a lot of root systems in here, which is the white stuff, and there's worms and all kinds of good stuff. So we're gonna be reusing that rather than going and buying really expensive potting soil. We're gonna make our own. So I'm gonna add about equal amounts of vermiculite, perlite, and coconut coir to this, just to make a good, this is all stuff that's going to hold a lot of water. And here in the desert, that is very important. Our temperature gets up to 113 in the summertime, so we need to make sure that we have a lot of ingredients in our soil that's going to hold all that moisture in. So I'm going to keep adding these until I get a nice full pot, and then I'll bring you back to show you how to repot your grapes and raspberries. Okay, so we filled these each about halfway with our natural compost that we have in our yard that we're reusing, and then I filled them the rest of the way with equal parts vermiculite, perlite, and coconut coir. Those things are really going to hold moisture, so when you're in a really dry climate like this, they work really great to hold in lots of moisture. We mixed this together really good and then moistened it with water and made sure that it was nice and soaked. Now I'm not filling these planters up completely with soil because I want to leave enough room for my plant, then a nice layer of mulch so that we don't get weed growth, and then I also want to leave a layer for some water to be soaked in when we water these, because otherwise it'll just overflow, and we want to be able to really soak that water down in here. So the first plant going in, Kitty loves these grapes and keeps playing with them. So we have one of our grapes that we pruned. He has a really long root ball, so we're just gonna kind of smush him in here to the right height, trying to get him centered so that he grows nice this time. And just cover him up and make sure that he's actually standing vertically and not, this is the one that was falling over. So now he's gonna have a nice straight vertical growth. The other plant we're gonna put into the teal one is one of our raspberries. So I dug this guy up and you can see how large of a root he had grown. And he was getting another little sucker on there. So that'll eventually be a new raspberry plant. So do the same thing for him. And then come spring, these guys will get a nice layer of mulch. Okay guys, that's it for this episode of Oasis in the Desert. Hopefully you found something in this video helpful. All of the information and items that we used is noted in the description. So if you need any perlite, vermiculite, anything like that, check the description. these pots. This one came from Sam's. This one came from Lowe's. So if you're looking for this style of pot, look around your local hardware stores. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Thank you.